Welcome to episode 2 of the In-Laws We Trust podcast. We hope you enjoyed the first one, so thank you for riding with us on the second. In this episode, we talk about therapy, trauma, and marriage counseling. So we hope you enjoy.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Today, we're talking about dealing and processing our trauma. Let's get into it.
Yep. As I said, ouchie.
Ouchie. Ouchie,
That's
ouchie.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, and it's definitely like a level of vulnerability.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, background as far as like what trauma is to us, I guess, and what we're currently or what we have done, maybe, right? What we've kind of experienced to help in healing in that trauma.
Yes, it's about how we processed it, or processing it.
Processing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess like when did that kind of realization to do that kind of work or do this kind of work of like a lot of self-reflection start for you?
I think it started with books, like probably in my early 30s. Just kind of getting on that whole, hey, something needs to change. And, I wanted to get a little deeper, like, understand myself. I started with reading some books, anything that had to do with like self-help, right? That's, I feel like was the natural course. And then got a little bit, tried to apply it, saw some results, and was like, okay, I can lean on this. It's cool. But at things level up.
Was there a moment or like event that made you like want to read those books?
I think it was around the time that I was just transitioning into nursing. I was probably like just finishing up with nursing school, going into my like that career, and then I felt as if I could have used a little more enrichment, a little bit more of, okay, so I got my career down and it's set, but what about me, like taking care of myself and exploring myself? I think that's where it started. But there's only so much that I can get from reading a book and trying to apply it, because it's easy to revert back, and then that level of accountability is not there. I don't poor at that, holding myself accountable. Probably like years later, realizing that this is not enough and problems need to be shared, but I'm going to the wrong places. Maybe people who aren't as experienced or they don't really have much to say about the subject or wouldn't really understand me. So I tried therapy for the first time, and I was scared. I think I put that off like for a long time, and then finally, mustered up the courage to do it. Signed up for a website. I got a lot of encouragement from a couple of friends, so that helped too. Then that journey took me to the present. I've gone through different therapists, just based on, maybe we reached a cap, like our ceiling, or it just wasn't working out. And now, happy where I'm at, really, really getting to the core of things. And I can honestly say that it's starting to pay off. So that's in a nutshell.
And shout out to mental health workers.
Shout out.
That's a different That's a whole different field.
Yeah, they don't get that recognition like
Absolutely
others.
Not. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No?
For me, it took my breaking point of like hating myself so much. Like realizing how much self-hatred I had that I couldn't even look in the mirror and like hate that reflection so much and feel so much anger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always ask, like, I'm so blessed with my family. I am a grad student right now. I'm where I prayed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I am so miserable and unhappy. And
Yeah.
it's all because of my mentality,
That's right.
how I feel about myself. And I was hurting a lot of other people too. I was hurting my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, and my family, and they didn't know how to help me because I didn't know how to help myself.
Yeah.
So I knew that those methods I thought worked before, where I just like sweep it under the rug and then keep going, it wasn't working anymore. Because like I just so much negativity about myself.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to see a therapist as well. It was short-term therapy though. It was only like 8 sessions because I wanted to dip my feet. The thought was really, really scary because no one in my family had ever even suggested anything like that.
Typical.
Classic.
Yep. But it changed a lot, really, for me. And that was only like a baby step, I would say,
Right.
for where I feel I am now. So.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I've always been really reflective because a lot of things just happen around me.
Yeah.
And so like when at a very young age, I was already like journaling and just like thinking a lot and thinking about my feelings a lot. And so when I had the first opportunity to like have a counselor at the very least, it was like in high school. And so I like went to my counselor. She was technically like a high school counselor, but also like I gained such a connection with her, and I learned the value of like having someone listen to you in a way that wasn't like a friend or like just someone who had more, I think, experience in life. Or just know other things than you do. And so that really changed the game for me, where I was like, when I had the opportunity, there was a visiting therapist who came into our school. And so I started like seeing her. And then, when I got to college, like I was seeing therapists like all the time. But a lot of it was because I know that there was a lot, I was kind of how I reacted to things, or like, why was I so angry about this? Or like, why do I feel so sad? And why do I constantly feel like stressed, and anxious all the time. And so, I knew at the core of it was like definitely like family dynamics and how those things were. And so that's kind of where it started for me. But I think like in the level of where I'm at right now, like being a lot more into the growth for myself and not just focus on the past, was like finding a community of people about 3 years ago now, who are open to vulnerability and open to discussion and open to like sharing these conversations. And like I met people who relate to that and who are also in their own journey. And so like learning from them and how they are to me as friends has taught me a lot of how I should be for myself.
Right.
And so like it's definitely an ongoing journey, because even though I started this when I was like 13, 14, like the different renditions of it has changed in the past X amount of years.
As it should.
It's a lot though.
It is.
It's so much work.
I mean, do you feel, like, any of you feel that therapy is still stigmatized, and B, like, what do you say to somebody who is on the fence, but just can't really muster up that courage to just take the step?
Right. As someone who tried to get into the mental health field and kind of is now, I studied psychology, so a lot of my conversations with people were always like, this is pretty normal, right? But then I like bring it up with like, especially family, because culturally like mental health is still very stigmatized. I think the conversation just goes down to like, well, this is like a random person. I don't know what you have to really lose. Like, I think one of the reasons why like the fear is like putting your dirty laundry out And there is like that fear, and that's okay. But I think that when you see like a professional, there's a level of professionalism that goes with it.
Yeah.
There's as long as you're not hurting yourself or others, and they have to become a mandated reporter, like it's not gonna get out,
Yeah.
and it's not gonna like expose anything. It's like it's very much like talking to your friends and people,
Right,
and that's like been done for centuries. But at the very least, like when it comes to your friends, they're either gonna be biased, partially part of the situation.
Yes, that's right.
And if somebody else is involved, they're going to feel some type of way about that person. And like that's going to change all these dynamics whenever they see each other. At the very least, you have someone who's like completely detached from everyone you know.
Mhm.
And they could just like take it as it is.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if that's going to hit to those people, but that's how I kind of
Right.
see it.
Yeah. I think for the stigma of therapy, I don't know, I feel like it's changed for over the years. Where before, all I would hear is, it's taboo,
Yes.
don't go to therapy.
Yeah.
But now it's like, if you're not in therapy, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah.
So now, what I think is, find the right therapist.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because a lot of if they're not a match, like it can be super dangerous
Right.
too.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like it's most important.
Absolutely.
That you know your therapist is keeping you accountable, not enabling you,
Yeah.
and at the same time keeping it professional,
Mhm.
and you really are growing from it, and not just like, I'm taking this advice, but I'm saying the same.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Like after a lot of trial and error, like I know what kind of therapist I look for
Yeah.
nowadays,
Yeah.
and that's what you need. It's very much like dating, where it's like I just kind of figure out like what's good for me, you
Yes.
know,
Right.
Yes.
or who.
I mean that in itself could be daunting for somebody out there listening, and just like, yeah, that first step of like, and then I'm sure it comes along with a lot of questions. I'm sure you had a lot of questions to begin with and doubts, right?
Mhm.
But understanding that, yes, you've done this naturally,
Mhm.
venting and being able to like expose yourself, you know, to a friend,
Mhm.
to somebody close who you trust.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, this therapist isn't somebody that you trust right off the bat, but again, there's something that trumps that, and I think it's the level of professionalism and their
Yes.
expertise in the field
Yeah.
that really nobody else around you, most likely, they can't compete with that. They can't offer
Exactly.
the same, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's having that understanding that I think it's really going to benefit me. If without it, I could still do the same thing, right? And just keep going
Yeah.
through this cycle.
Mhm.
But if I finally just do it and put myself out there, what's there to lose? And I'm trying something different. You prove to yourself you did something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is like your guys' like best experience with your therapist? Like, what is that moment that was just like, damn, that was good?
I mean, and I think that's just a sign of my current therapist right now. She's definitely, you know, doing the whole like out of nowhere kind of puts everything together and makes me realize, hey, you know, you just missed something that, you know, the question that you have, you just answered it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like bringing it up, like just around from the back, and like kind of just, it's a culmination, right? And when I least expect it, I'm sitting there like maybe like venting about like the current situation, like what happened past week, whatever. And then it's like, hey, you know, I noticed this pattern, blah, blah, blah. And then finally lays it on me. And I'm like, dude, it finally clicked, and you're right. And all the stuff that I've been, you know, fixated on and complaining about, that it really, you know, that was my answer basically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll get into it like specifics later, but I think those moments where you least expect the answer to show itself, but it proves to you that it's like,
That's what
You're
it was
the
all along.
professional. You're the
Yeah.
professional
That's why you're the
engineer.
professional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I pay you the big bucks. You know?
Yeah. You couldn't have come to that yourself.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And like if you tell that to another person who's close to you, like for example, like your partner, it's like they have to also consider like whatever they say, if there's any like repercussion to that,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
especially hearing it from someone that you're close to, like hearing your faults, it's like, I don't know about you guys, but I go in like defense mode. It's like, no, I'm not like that. What do you mean? You know? And then no. And then you think about like, oh my God, it's like, that's true. What do you think about me? And like, how is it going to work? And so it's nice with therapists because it's like, it's almost sterile. Or it's like, well, I may not be making the best decisions right now, but you are not attached to me like personally.
Yeah.
So even if you feel that way, you're still going to be there.
Yeah.
And I don't have
That's
that fear of like you emotionally
Yes.
wanting to lose me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Kai? What was your moment?
It was probably when I realized the root of. She helped me realize why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, like, I was always confused. I was like, why am I like this? That was my central question all the time. Why am I like this? And that's why I seek someone else to explain to me why am I like this. And when I opened up more and more, and that's the thing, I had to open up because at first I was like, ugh, what is this? I feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell her like the things that really hurt me, but I realized after a couple, I'm not going to get anything out of this if I don't.
You get what you put in.
Yes,
That's right.
exactly. So when I finally did and she connected everything, I thought everything that has ever hurt me was different,
Right.
but they're all connected.
Yep.
And that was like,
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, it's all from one thing.
That's
and
right.
then on top of that, giving me tools to work with that,
Yes.
to change that.
That's right.
Like feeling like there's actually a solution to this. I don't have to ask why am I like this anymore. I can ask how can I fix this? How can I be better and actually know how. So that's invaluable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, doesn't it feel sometimes like those connections and, you know, it's, again, you couldn't come to that conclusion yourself, right? And then realizing how things are so connected, it's connected even to the smallest, like most mundane thing, most routine thing that you don't even think twice about.
Yeah.
But having that kind of awareness placed on it, it's like, okay, it's kind of scary, but it's also empowering knowing that it's like, okay, you know, even the littlest things, I can bring awareness to it, and then we can, if we address it, it's kind of like you're addressing several things at once, and that will like relieve.
Absolutely.
Yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was my like moment.
Uh-huh.
Because like, yeah, I've had multiple therapists and a lot of them have different approaches, right? Like there's CBT, there's DBT. The one that like impacted me the most, shout out to Lily.
Uh-huh.
That's my girl. I don't see her anymore, but like hers was like trauma based.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it, like, I was always kind of on the fence about things like inner child talking.
Right.
Because I was like, it feels like a trend, you know?
Yes.
But then I did it through her work. And my breaking moment was like, I had sessions with her where I was breaking down every single time. But the moment was like one time I was having an argument with my boyfriend and I was feeling like so much overwhelm.
Yeah.
And I applied kind of what I learned from therapy and like having to like kind of self-soothe and have that conversation and regulate myself. And I was like, oh, this shit really works. Like it was like, this is like how to get through all of this. And so like that was like my moment, and it was like, yeah, like how you guys were saying, where it's like, you know, this work is really difficult. But then you like reach that learning point, and then it feels like it loosens all the other knots of other things.
Right.
Because like when talking to like that inner child, it was like a very specific age and a very specific thing happened that is rooted in a lot of things that anxiety comes from. Like my whole thing that I learned from my therapist was like abandonment issues. Like one of my earliest memories as a child is like watching my father leave the apartment, like when my parents finally separated. And like he came back and like he's trying to be a father. But I think like as a child when you're 4 years old, like that visually watching that person leave physically, it does something to you, right? Yeah. And so like I've sat with like this level of abandonment for a very long time, and it's seeped into every relationship that I've done and do and like my actions. Yeah. But now that I know that, then now I know how to communicate that to the person that could both make it better and make it worse.
Yes.
And that's like that learning curve, and that's like that aha moment where it's like you have that moment, but then how can you put that in all the other things that are in your life?
Yeah, that's the hardest part because you're learning to change a habit.
Unlearning.
Yeah. Habits. Catching yourself when you're doing that thing you always do, and then applying what you learned and actually like changing it. That is so tough. I think, but that's what really matters, right?
Yes.
Because if we don't go through that change, then we're just, where is it going?
You're just stuck in that cycle of like conversation, kind of what we talked about last episode. Where it's like, you could like vent as much as you want, you could talk about as much as you want, but if you're not doing anything about it, it's kind of unproductive.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I was living proof of that. Yeah. So kind of, again, it goes back to that idea of like you're living with yourself. You're the only person that knows yourself as best, the best, right? Mm-hmm. And I think me personally having a sense of, hey, my partner's like, I've divulged enough and I think they're going to understand me and they're going to continue to understand me. Biggest pitfall for me. Like that's the one like thought that sent me down failure. And you can't expect others to know what you're thinking and to like, react properly to how you're going and everything like that. It's really, again, on you, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's going back to like what you were talking about, Ash, about childhood trauma, like the inner child. Briefly tried that, and I can make a connection, and I found it like so, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
It was just a part of me maybe is just, I think I did a lot of repression or maybe just like erasing it a lot of my childhood because there were like very traumatic things, but if like, when I'm faced with that therapist and it would ask me like, let's talk about like something significant in your past. There were like general things that I can relate, but there were a lot of things that, if they wanted me to go in depth more, it was like tough. And I can see where it benefits if like you can really get to like ground zero and remember the details, and then you find the root and then all that. But I wish I could, because I've heard so many good things about it. But yeah, it was tough, and I brought that up to my current therapist, and it's just like, what's the idea of just erasing memories? Continue looking forward, and you can't stay like stuck on the past. But in the past lie some answers, right?
History repeats itself, right? That's how you break those cycles.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, we took different approaches, but it kind of towed that same line, and I could see where it benefits you, others who have gone through that, and I mean, again, I think we talked about there's many types of therapy
Yeah,
that will,
different schools.
yeah.
Different. Yeah,
but finding what works for
works
you,
for you.
and then it's gonna result in at the end like something really, really good.
And that's why there's so many different kinds. Like I had therapists who were very into like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? CBT.
Mhm.
I can't really do that because I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. Like, and then so like when I try to, because CBT is really about like switching in the moment, like into something else,
Yes,
right? Like
yes.
using the toolbox
Yes.
when you're feeling some type of way or going
Right.
through something and like putting that and like working on it.
Mhm.
I can't do that because I sit with a thought for a long time.
Right.
And I think that was on the flip side too, like I had to work on is like I think about the past a lot. And so I hit a point at some point in my early 20s where it was like, okay, I can't just think about the past all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's what that balance I'm trying to figure out is like
Yeah.
how, not even looking towards the future, but staying in the present.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do now, right? What can I do for
Yeah.
myself now? What can I do for my partner now? All that stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's definitely a balance. And like, I don't want to like also just focus specifically on the past either. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's
It's so interesting that you say that about CBT because I also feel like I might have ADHD, like 100%.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's what worked for me
okay.
Yeah.
because my biggest issue was how I think about things,
Yes.
how I feel about myself,
Right.
and what needed to shift was like my neural pathway of like conflict and issues.
Mhm.
And that's the only thing that could
Yeah.
really, work, I guess. But it really shows how it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And the scary part of therapy is you're probably not going to get it right the first time with your
That's
first
true.
therapist.
That's true.
And it's going to suck trying to open up and then feeling like it's not it.
Absolutely.
And that's where a lot of people give up.
Yeah.
But it's worth it when you
Find the right one.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Like dating.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of it as like it's an investment in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and in any type of like business venture, any kind of like investment that you're making, the idea that it's gonna work out the first time you do it is gonna, you're bound for failure,
Yeah.
and you have to accept that there will be times it's not gonna work out.
Mhm.
It does. You're gonna have to maybe try multiple times, and maybe it's against your nature, and you just want it to like work now.
Right.
But I definitely urge anybody to just keep on. Like, even if there's a sense of, hey, I feel comfortable with this person. Sometimes when you get too comfortable with that person, with that therapist, that means it's time to move on.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
It's really time.
And they're usually the ones who are like, hey, I think you're good now.
I
Yeah.
know.
Like when my therapist did that to me, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah.
I still think about her.
No, I know. But it just means it all worked out.
Yeah.
Right.
So like on that, we're all like on that therapy wave, but like when it comes to our people that we're with,
Mm-hmm.
I know you talked about marriage counseling for a little bit. Like, well, how do you broach that conversation if you feel like your person should probably see a therapist?
Well, it's a very ongoing process currently. And again, this goes back to that idea of like, in a relationship, things are bound to change and you both grow and evolve. And sometimes, into different people than who you were years past.
Yeah.
That's just inevitable. But it's how you approach it, right? It's how you embrace it.
Yeah.
But somebody in our relationship between the two of us, had to kind of stop things and say, it's not working right now. We're not, our old ways are not helping us carry through. And I think for me, doing the self-work helped me approach that conversation and be more open and forward. Only because I know what's at stake. our survival, our relationships, very survival, and kind of communicating that so that my partner understands like how important it is for us to make it past this point of like, hey, we're not like moving at the same pace, and we're not like we're like operating at the same like level now.
Mm-hmm.
What is required of us. I know it has been tough. It was tough too. But we finally made a breakthrough where we're like, hey, okay, down to do marriage counseling. And we only saw that therapist like a handful of times, but boy, did she like provide us with tools. She provided us with an author to really like, follow and read up on, and that had a handbook of things. And it really, what it did for us was like, we gotta rediscover ourselves. We have to like go back to dating mode, and you have to be invested in each other again.
Yeah.
But now you're invested into a different person because you've grown.
Yeah.
You have different, maybe that's why, like, and then a lot of those questions, prompts, they help you understand the other person. Like, man, I didn't realize that you felt this way now. Like, I always assumed that you like to think of things this way, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there is a level of, yes, it works for the relationship, but with those tools, you still need a set of like a new foundation, or at least like a solid foundation, and that comes from your individual work, from what you have in your own individual toolbox. And I know like we've had this conversation with each other, like my wife knows she has work to do, and it's always been just a fear, and I totally empathize, and the patience has like really grown, and because I can see it through like her point of view and understanding, okay, in her time, and I think she's finally piecing it all together, that she's beginning her journey. So I'm super excited to see like what happens after that, what she becomes after that experience,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who she gets to become
in this stage, because again, like the plot has to like continue in our story,
Yeah, for sure.
And something that I heard in another podcast was like, it's normal, couples lose like sense and sight of their plot, what was their story. But it's okay, because if you realize that, hey, we kind of got off track, let's bring it back and figure out what it's going to take to get back on. So now that we're both on the same page with that, both understanding that, it's so reassuring that it's like, all right, like she knows it too. Like there's like moments where it's like, dude, are we gonna survive? Like, am I gonna bail? Like, but again, you're faced with those moments in your relationship where it has to test you. It has to like really make you think.
Yeah.
And you got to find a way to like fight it off. Just, hey, I'm ready to like squeeze every last bit of this until like there's nothing it can give, right?
Right.
So,
You always choose them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're still choosing them.
Yeah.
No matter who they are, who they've become throughout all the years. Because, man, our partners are always going to change. They have to.
Yeah.
And we have to also.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say, I feel like I have already known 4 different versions of my husband because we started dating when we were 17.
Yeah.
And then the college part.
Right.
And then the working part when you graduate. And then being married now. It's like all different. And if I expected him to be the same from when we began, then we wouldn't have made it.
You're going to be faced with changes as a couple. Things are going to evolve. And I mean, I think embracing it and knowing that it's somewhere down the line, and maybe even starting a conversation to bring awareness to it will really help the process like get smoother, because regardless, it's gonna be bumpy. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be like heartache and a lot of tears, a lot of like, but knowing that, hey, this is part of the process, right? That's key.
Yeah. I was just thinking about what you guys have been talking about, because I think like I made that realization right now, where it's like that person that I'm with, the person I'm with,
Yes.
has changed. And I think like I've been holding on to like a very specific type.
Mm.
And it's like, it's not like I love that person, love him any less.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, I think sometimes I have moments where I'm like, wait, what happened to this, you know? And I think like unconsciously, like I have both been accepting that change, but also unconsciously not accepting that change, because I don't like change. So sometimes it's like, in particular situations, right? Like it's like, oh, I know that you could be like this, or like I've seen you be like this, so why can't you be this now?
Yeah.
But that I remember, it's not more than 7 years ago that he was that person.
Right.
And then now it's like, the person that you are, I still love you. But it's like different.
Yeah.
And I know I'm different too.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that gives me a lot of clarity too of like what I've been kind of grappling with, where it's like, I can't blame you. You are your own person.
So I'm assuming this is just you've had this conversation with yourself.
Oh, a lot with myself.
A lot with yourself.
A lot with myself. Yeah.
So the next step obviously is
So having a conversation with him.
yes. And I mean, again,
I know he's listening.
this is exercising.
They're all listening.
but I mean, it can be like very awkward. It can be very tense in the beginning, but you gotta keep it in mind, like what's at stake. This is the livelihood of your relationship, the person that you love, right?
Yeah.
And you want your life it has begun, and you want it to end with this person. So that should be all you need to keep, kind of like helping push forward this, okay, well, whatever like thoughts, doubts, any of that. It's like, I don't care if you can't verbalize what you want to say, or that you're just gonna sit quietly and listen to me. It needs to be said. And I would appreciate if, you sit on this, really take it to heart, and then maybe tomorrow, a week from now, we can sit down and then you have something to respond with. And then let's go from there.
Yeah, something I've learned definitely is like we said, like it's their journey and it takes time.
Yeah.
And you can't change someone overnight. And I think especially that there is that that goal to end life with that person.
Yes.
But it's like being in that long run, it's like, and that's okay that it takes time. Because we have the rest of our lives.
That's right. It's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
And that's a blessing to even think that way
That's true.
about
Hey,
it.
you're right.
You're right.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they don't have that.
They don't.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh my gosh, where are we going? What are we doing?
Like we talked about that middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Situations.
Exactly. So keeping that in mind and having that confidence that you both are in it for the long run, you're for each other no matter what. I feel like as long as that's in the center, you'll be okay.
Right.
It's going to get really, really hard, and it's going to feel like it's not okay, and you might even want to give up at some point.
Yes.
But that at the center, how much you love each other and how much you want to be there till the end for each other, that's what will get you through.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And I think having that conversation gives them a sense of like encouragement too, that you're assuring them, hey, I'm here for the long run, and you know, it's going to be, you know, there are going to be some difficulties, but I'm also here through those difficult times, like that you're going to go through, that we're going to go through. And maybe, again, it's just sometimes that little dose of reality, a little like gut punch helps. It really does. It brings you back, brings our partners back to reality.
Yeah.
Right? Don't lose sight of the plot. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And so when we're talking about like therapy and talking about like having those conversations, like, I mean, yeah, Kuya, you talked about it. Kai, like, what, like, you have also gone through marriage counseling. Do you want to speak on that too? Like, what is that conversation looking like?
Yeah. You know what's interesting is the basis of all of it was how we grew up. Understanding each other's childhoods, because that's why we do the things that we do.
Right.
And for my husband, he had never done anything like that before.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, that's what I think about.
I mean, same with mine. That's why we're here.
Yeah, but to see him, like the light flicker, you know? When it's like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
And then me too, having that understanding of, oh, that's why he does that.
Yeah.
So that was really eye-opening for both of us. But again, very, very hard, because I think that was the first time my husband realized like how much he doesn't know about himself.
Yeah.
But I know that it has to be in his own time.
Yeah.
Like for anybody. We can't force anyone to do anything. But one thing that really kind of grounded me is that he was letting it change him too. You know, he wasn't fighting it off. And I was doing the same thing, and we were doing it together.
Yes.
You know?
Key word.
Together.
That's it.
We're all in this together.
Yes. I mean, applying it when you go home is a whole other story.
I mean, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Right?
But knowledge is power, right? Yeah. So knowing is the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm thankful. Very thankful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's good. Very good. And for Ash?
I feel like we're at the precipice of that.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, the majority of it has been, again, inner dialogue with myself.
Yeah.
And I'm a psychoanalyzer. So, like, I know things about a person, and I'm like, I can see it. You know, and I've psychoanalyzed him.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've had that conversation yet, because it's kind of like broaching. It feels like a lot to, again, assume and put that mirror on that person. And like, I'm not going to go and be like, hey, so I think you do this because of this. You know, that's not my job, right? That's like them to get to. Like, that's not how you approach it, right? You don't do that.
That never works.
And that never works, because then it's like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know me. And that's and I feel that, because if someone did that to me, then I would feel the same way. So I think, like, it's very interesting to me that you guys have talked about, like, marriage counseling and, like, what that experience was like. Because I feel like that, I don't know, that might come up again for me in the future. But we're not there yet, I don't think. Like,
right.
I think that we've started having more, like, serious conversations, and, like, things have come up that have, like, kind of, like, touched that.
Yeah.
But I think, too, we're just both very conflict avoidant people. And it's, like, really hard to kind of, like, want to bring stuff up when things are good. You know? But somebody has to, right? And, you know, maybe this is the button. Maybe as he listens to this episode. But I think I don't have a doubt that he's open to it.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of time and, like, why. Like, we've had moments, too, where it's like he's had the aha moment. But I don't know if it's, like, all connected together to realize, hey, maybe it's, like, your journey. You know?
Right. Yeah.
I
Oh, we
think,
had little bits.
okay, so we talked about that part of like on their own time, you know, this and that. Like, there is a point though, at least in my head and my rationale, you don't want time to take its course and you become like so callous,
Yeah.
so like, you know, just indifferent, and or you run the risk of like, you know, driving yourself into deep frustration and, you know, depression, all that.
Catch it early.
You know, but catching it early, yes. Like, and there is, I feel there is sort of a fine line that you have to walk of, hey, you need a little encouragement versus, okay, you got enough encouragement and I don't want to like keep pressing the issue, so you do your thing. But at least for me, I think it's still motivated by, I just want to see us win.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see us like be
100%.
successful and you know, make good on what we established from the very beginning. But here's one thing, like definitely it's something that married, unmarried, just, I think that idea of getting back to getting to know each other, you know, dating again. Like one of these like, the handbook thing that we were given in marriage counseling has like this, and I love games, right? It's like this 21 question page, right? And you both take your time to answer it. You answer it and then you read it to each other because it's questions that you think about your other partner. And it gives insight. If it's like, are we on the same page? Like,
Can you send that to me?
100%. Yes, that's why I urge you guys, because it's like, it's a fun little game.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do you guys, you know, have free time with your partners and then you're just like, what the fuck are we gonna do today? Like, you know, something like that, like could be like an option, and it's so beneficial.
You can only watch so many movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Time pass, you know.
Or go to a
100%.
restaurant.
Yeah.
But you're doing something for yourselves, and you can make it fun, light, or if you really want to, like, let's say, like, hey, let's get deep and down with it. Let's go. But I'll send it to you guys for sure.
Yeah.
You guys, if for all those who are interested in what it is, like, look up Dr. Gottmann's, like, you know, research and everything. He's like the love doctor, him and his wife. But they came up with a lot of that stuff, and my wife and I did it, and we like hang our hats on it because it's so good.
Wow.
You know.
Do you remember a really good question?
Let's look it up.
Yeah, we can look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be up there. It should be up there. But I know, like, one of the nights that we sat doing it, there were a lot of laughs. There were a lot of just like, a lot of.
136 questions for increasing closeness practice.
Yeah, that's probably one of it. Yeah, there's just a lot of like banter.
Yeah,
and,
which is what you need.
And you don't realize, like, deep down what it's actually doing.
Right.
It's increasing connectedness. You
Yes.
know, it's really keeping you guys close instead of like, hey, we're watching Netflix tonight. We're watching Love Is Blind. whatever show it is. And it's
That makes me reflect a lot. I'm not gonna lie, that show, it makes me think a lot. I'm like,
Yeah.
But see, sometimes for the wrong reason.
yeah!
And it's like,
Yeah.
your trauma is your drama. It's not
You're
mine. Like, I feel it. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Ooh, this one's a good question. If you knew that in 1 year you would die suddenly, would you change anything but the way you're now living and why?
See? Things like that. Questions like that.
Ooh.
Yep.
Ouch.
Damn, that's good. And
Okay, answer that one.
Oh. You can go
Take turn.
first.
Read it one more time.
If you knew that in 1 year you would die suddenly, would you change anything about the way you're now living and why?
Yeah. I probably would work part-time because I do love my job so much, but I don't have time to do everything I want to do.
Yeah.
And then travel with my husband and I would probably want to have a kid too.
Yeah. There you go.
Man.
It's
Whoa.
It's a heavy loaded
That's question number 1.
No, it's question number 19, actually.
Let's do this again.
Yes.
Good one. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
I think same. Like, I think I would get part-time because I need money.
Yeah.
Unless, like, because I'm dying in a year, like, shit, somebody blesses me with that.
Yeah.
And I would just spend all of my time with my family and my friends and, like, and with my boyfriend and, like, travel definitely.
Yeah.
And just spend as much time as I can with the people I love.
Yes.
I don't know about having a kid. I feel like in a way that's like you have a piece of me with you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm gonna cry.
Me too. I was like, oh. When you said that, I was like, oh.
Hey, no. I just got this picture of like those lame ass like Filipino telenovelas. Homeboy is on his deathbed and he's whispering. And they're both like crying and dramatic music in the back. Like,
oh gosh, yeah.
Goodness.
But I mean, I think that's a good idea. I think it would just be hard for the child. Is what I would think about.
Very hard. Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
Wow,
this is a good question.
But I mean, okay, so would you maybe get married?
Like within that year?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I feel like, what does that change? If just leave them as a widower.
Oh.
I mean, that's more perspective. It's pretty grim.
I know. I think about my death a lot.
I mean, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think about it a lot.
Too.
And so for me, it's like, I don't want. I mean, maybe this is not how he feels at all. But for me, it's like, I don't want him to feel like, oh, I went through this first marriage. Let me get through my second now because my wife is dead. You know, it's like, I don't want that attachment for him if he doesn't need to. Unless, like, you know, we're married already. Then it's like, well, it already happened.
Yeah.
But it's like, for me, it's like, yeah, you know. I thought about this a lot too. Where it's like, if something happened to me, or like, you know, I got diagnosed or something, like, live your life, bro. Like, we're not yet necessarily bound by sickness and health.
Yeah.
I mean, we are, like, abstractly, but not yet, you know, legally.
Right.
And that's the assumption.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna, I don't know, I feel like it's my life. And if my life is gonna end soon, then it's like, I don't want you to feel obligated to be there. But if you want to be there, that's great.
Yeah.
But I want you to feel that obligation. Don't want you to feel that obligation.
That's facts.
Same with, like, if I, like, turned into a vegetable or something happened to me.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
No,
I'm like, no, dude, go. Just go.
Yeah.
Don't even put me there. I'm not even. Yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live life like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't answer, right?
What's your answer?
Did you guys do that?
Yeah, we did.
That's crazy.
Definitely. I'm trying to recall what I said, but you know what? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. What'd you answer as now?
Like, I don't know necessarily if I would go part-time. I would just not work. No, but to be honest, I would do something like if I could, you know, cut hair for free.
Oh, things that you love to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like offer my service to anybody and everybody who's just, you know, willing, and maybe share a piece of me to them where I can learn something from them. I would definitely spend a lot of time with my family, friends, really pursue things that I've put off. Obviously exploring the world, play more golf, you know.
Me too. I would play a lot more golf.
Yeah. Shout out Melbourne.
Test.
Of course. But I think more so, and it sucks because a question like this, you know, there are other questions that come from it, but why wait if you only found out that you only had a year to live to do all those things? And I still haven't figured out what that answer is for me.
Sometimes it's something needs. Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say something that needs to happen. Like one of the reasons why, like, I feel like I have like a very YOLO mentality, and like I just, to the detriment sometimes of myself, just always put myself in situations to do things and make things and be there. Is because like one of my grand aunts, my grandpa's sister, like she and her husband were together and they were about to retire soon from like decades of public servitude, and he had a surgery to avoid a cancer situation, but it went wrong. There was an infection. He passed away. And that was like, it was really hard to watch, and as she went through that, like a lot of her sentiment was like, our plan after we retired was to travel the world together. They worked really hard, they like, all they did was work. All they did was like, spend a lot of their time doing that. And to wait when you're like 65, whatever, to like travel the world or do what you want to do, just at the end of the day, do what you want to do.
Yeah.
You're not guaranteed that.
That's
You're not entitled to that at all.
That's right.
And like when that happened, it was like, why not now?
Yeah.
Why not now? Like, you gotta work and stuff, but like balancing that, like you can't just wait till you're quote unquote done with, the majority of your adulthood to retire and do that. You gotta do it now while they're still here. And so that really gave me a lot of perspective of like, yeah, why wait if you were, to die in 1 year?
Yeah.
You just gotta do it.
Yeah. I mean, as heavy as that was, that was just one of the more loaded questions. That was, and I assure y'all that it's like,
It's not all like that.
all like that.
Man.
I know.
Yeah, there's
There's gotta be one,
Is
right?
there a lighter one?
There's gotta be one.
what would constitute a perfect? Oh, when did you last sing to yourself and to someone else?
Yeah, see, it's things like
Shoot,
that.
I do that all the time.
I know. On my way over here in the car.
Oh.
I know, it's a lot. And I like really like these questions. I think like for me, one of the hard parts about kind of having these conversations is the bear is not necessarily there. I'm imagining that the bear is there, but poking it.
Yeah.
And like, and I say that because it's not like this, like he hasn't like showed, complete restraint or anything from like having these conversations. But again, as a conflict avoided person, it's like, oh, but what if we do open these can of worms? And then what if, what if, the what ifs. Yeah. And so, but a lot of times in like our relationship, like he has surprised me and negated a lot of my what ifs.
Yeah.
So I just have to faith in that too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, again, I think that we bring this up again. It just takes time, right? And even on your own time, your own personal time, like it's gonna reach a point where, okay, I feel comfortable, safe, and I trust that, doing this, it's not gonna yield to the worst case scenario that I built up in my head. It's going to be better. Or you can rest assured that it's like, hey, if it's us, it's us, and this shouldn't break us.
Mm-hmm.
Good
And
to
we
know.
can run with that,
Yeah.
right?
Only build us.
Only build us up,
Yeah.
So when we're building, how do we keep ourselves accountable?
I mean, before I wanted to get into that, I think there was like the idea of, where those like the traumas that we were talking about, like how does it show up in your relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Like was there like, are there particular instances, scenarios that are present in your relationship, and what are they? Like, was that something born out of trauma, born out of the past, and you recognize it now, and what are you doing about it to kind of get a better hold on it?
Yeah.
Well thought.
I know early on in the relationship, a lot of it was like, if I said something that felt heavy, or like I said something that I was like, ooh, would he be mad about that? Or like brought something up. And if like, there's no response quick enough, I'm like, oh my God, he's mad. That's it. We're done. You know? And I think a lot of that again is like rooted in like abandonment issues and like experience like with friends especially, and like having a difficult sometimes relationship with friends.
What, like coming and going, all that stuff? In and out? Yeah.
In and out. Sometimes you don't get closure.
Facts.
Get ghosted. You're like, what did I do? And so sometimes I have this really bad habit of like when I have those text messages, or like even if I place a boundary, and I'm like, ooh, this person's gonna get mad at me, I'm gonna put my phone away for like an hour because I don't want to see the response. I get so anxious.
That anxiety like eats you.
Yes. Or my other one is like is also like flakiness, right? Like particularly because I know I've had this like kind of trauma with like especially my parents, where it's like sometimes like they don't follow through, they don't show up, and sometimes I like invite him to things, or I like want like I'm like, oh, like, you know, let's hang out for this, and sometimes it's like the day of. And I get a text message. I'm like, oh my God, is he going to cancel? Like, is this it? Like, why doesn't he want to come? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no. It was just like, hey, I'm going to be on the way there.
Or what do I wear?
And it's like, you gotta unlearn that shit, because that is like putting unnecessary stress. And next thing you know, I'm going to have like high blood pressure.
Right. Self-sabotage.
And self-sabotage.
Right? Yeah. Beating yourself to the worst thing that can happen when it hasn't even happened yet.
Guilty.
And it's not good for your body, because your cortisol levels go up. You go on fight/flight mode, and it ages you. It's again not good for your organs at the end of the day.
Have you guys heard of the book "The Body Keeps the Score"?
Yes. I've heard that. Yeah. You read it already?
I haven't read the whole thing, but it really goes into detail about how our anxiety, our worries, that takes a physiological toll on you.
Yeah. And that's why sometimes, like, going back into, like, talking about, like, that inner child work, quote unquote, sometimes it becomes physical. Like, when I've had these conversations with my smaller self, it's like, my therapist would be like, so what does this, like, for example, what does 6-year-old Ashley need right now? Yeah. It's like, she needs a pat on the head. She needs a hug. Yeah. She needs just like a little rub on the arm, you know? And it's like that physical sits there forever.
Yeah.
Oh, sheesh. Legit. See, that's what I was talking about before. Like, that whole, like, I hear how in depth it gets, and like, damn, like if I can find myself there, then I can do it. 6-year-old Brian would like but down. Like,
yeah, it's really hard. It's like
it's healing and hurtful at the same time, because it's like something that the young you has longed for all these years.
Oh yeah,
you finally get it, and it hurts.
That's right.
Oh yeah,
it really hurts.
Yeah.
But it's what you need.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only person who can be there for you is yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why you do that.
And that was so hard for me to learn too. Yeah. That reality that in the end, it's you.
It's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not your whoever traumatized you is not gonna come back and be like, hey, it's okay, we're good, you know?
Yeah.
And then your partner can't just be like, let me save the day. And it's like, no, you gotta save yourself, as, cheesy as that sounds.
That's right.
Yeah. In terms of trauma, my trauma showing up in my relationship, and we had talked about this off camera too, but expectation has really destroyed me.
Having expectations?
Yes.
Expectations.
And shout out to my life mentor, someone that I really, really respect and has changed so much for me, that shared this quote.
Yeah.
But I'll say it again. Expectations are resentment under construction.
I wrote that in my journal.
Expectations
You said it.
are resentment under construction.
Under construction. And in a relationship, I also have to understand expectations are different from needs. Everyone has something that they need from a relationship.
Yeah.
But to expect something of someone, that it's not going to get you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And my expectations always came from a lot of the people, like the role models in my life, or people I looked up to and respected would say something and then they wouldn't do it. Or they would, what they are saying is not what they're showing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I vibe with that.
I vibe with that. Should that be like our slogan? I vibe with that.
Vibes.
Yeah.
Yep.
that's a lot of vibes right there.
Oh yeah.
Now it's like with my partner, I'm like, you're my safe person. You're supposed to be the one that changes all of that.
Oh, yeah.
But no. Now I'm just putting the expectation on him.
And that's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair at all. And that's where I catch myself and think, he is who he is. I can't change him.
Yeah.
Even though I really want him to be this, that's the idea of him. That's not him. And that's so common for when I've talked to a lot of other people. They're so in love with the idea of someone, and that's how it's easy to fall into like a toxic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Or getting so comfortable. You are in love with who you want them to be, but not who they really are.
Yeah.
So all of that expectation, I've had to learn to stop doing that.
Yeah.
And it's been so hard because I do that not just with him, but with everybody.
Right.
And when, they don't need it, I'm like, why are you want to hurt me? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But it's like, no, it's my responsibility. I can control how I feel. I can't control how other people deal with things, how they react to things. I can only control myself.
Right.
And yeah, it's changed a lot of things, I'd say, in our relationship. That's where I feel like I've learned to be more patient.
Yeah.
Because now I'm removing that, huge burden that I would put on him.
Right.
But man, it's tough.
Man.
It's really tough.
I mean, that kind of segues into the whole accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a level of accountability that is needed because you've alluded, what that trauma is, how it shows up in your relationship. So what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And I mean, again, our partners may not know, or they do know, but it's still not up to them to help that cause out.
Yeah.
So what steps, right? What steps do we take?
This podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, this podcast, for sure it's a step. We're definitely throwing ideas out there on the table, and we have a whole slew of things to take from each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
With traumas, for me, whatever they are, there's always a measure of or a moment where, hey, this can either keep blowing up and I could just let it, completely take over the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna take over me, and it's gonna negatively affect everybody around me.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
The whole awareness, it's there now. I'm like, I can't be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But what do I do? And something that's helped with me, it's kind of asking yourself, all these thoughts that rush into the, pertaining to this circumstance. Is there any truth to that? Is there any truth to what it is I'm thinking? Let's stay facts based and, don't deviate from it. And then if it's like, you decide, is there facts behind it? Then yes, okay, what can I do now about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's really nothing that I can do about it, then I've kind of already established an answer to that whole like circumstance situation. And for me at least, it stops the momentum of self-talk and, eventually going towards self-sabotage, things like that. Whereas if I didn't follow this, like these two questions, the mind runs.
The mind runs. It's where
The thoughts go like 100 miles an hour, and I'm gonna get in that mode where I'm just like staring off into the distance, and nothing other than just those thoughts matter. And shit, it gets like pretty dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another layer of that awareness that's built in, and then it plays into, okay, keep yourself accountable because you're trying to like do better by yourself, do better by the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta avoid getting to that place. And I needed some kind of protocol, some kind of like system. And that was like my
Yeah. I can't really fully speak on like accountability in relationship growth because, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, that's something that I think we're at the edge of getting to.
Yeah.
But for me, like a level of accountability has always just been writing it down. I think at the end of the year, or at the beginning of every year, like I do like a little journaling of like accountability and like what are my goals and all that stuff, right? And then just having something physical to refer back to. And I think what really helps is telling someone about it. It's like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do by this time, or this is what I'm trying to do at this point. And it's like someone who is like, I'll check in on you on that, or like, you said this is what's going to happen. How's that going? Like that has helped a lot with all of the other things that I'm kind of just trying to get through and deal with. And that's going back to self accountability. It's like at least you have that physical to like check in on yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's what I think really helps me a lot of like being accountable for the things that I want to do. Now, being accountable for the things I've done is a different story.
Things that have been done already.
These decisions I've made.
Right.
I think is it's just a conversation. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think making decisions that take action on that kind of accountability.
Yeah.
Like if I fucked up, then like apologies, like saying sorry is one thing, but then like how am I going to action-wise fix the situation, behavior-wise fix the situation?
Right. Yeah. How do I keep myself accountable? I have just learned the value of writing things down.
Okay.
I never did that before.
Yeah.
And just having it all in your head, to me now, it doesn't feel real until I see it, I write it, or I say it to someone else.
Yeah.
I would usually be so afraid of even sharing like things I want to do, things I want to change about myself, because I would think like, oh man, I really have to do it. If I write it down and if I tell someone, I really have to do it. And I don't want to. So I think that's why only recently I started to do that, because I realized how much I was hurting myself, like being so afraid and holding back. Confiding in my friends too. I didn't do that a lot before. I felt like I was always the one who would take it on from them. But I never really like got down to the core of like my dreams, my aspirations, how I want to change.
Yeah.
I always talk to them about like trauma
Yeah.
and how I've been hurt, but not how I want to change. And I've never asked them, can you keep me accountable? Like, can you make sure, can I ask you to check on me and make sure that I am really doing this for myself and I'm not just being comfortable?
Right.
And the same with my husband too. And my sister and my family. But this is also new to me that it feels overwhelming
Right.
sometimes and scary. Even with this podcast, you know, that's why I was so scared, because I'm like, okay, yeah, I really, everything I'm saying here, I gotta stay true to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
This is a
I gotta do
great
these
start.
freaking questions now. Okay. That's accountability number one.
Yes. I never want to be that all talk person, you know?
Yeah, I mean, integrity.
Yeah.
That's the thing that just always gets front and center. And if you're gonna speak about it, you gotta be about it, right?
Mhm.
It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. It's difficult most when it's feeling like, oh, it's just you. Because you can, I'm like, yeah, I can let myself down, whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like when you work out and you're like, no, I'll just stop.
Yeah.
When you're not fully done with that rep,
True.
and you're like, it's okay.
True.
No one's
But-
keeping me accountable.
Yeah.
But I know, like, and shout out to all those, like, you know, self-starters, those, like, stay on the grind. They don't need nobody.
Yeah.
Like, y'all are doing something special. But I know myself for sure, I need that occasional, maybe more than occasional, like, push and check-in and, you know, like, hey, call me out type thing.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
again, we could circle back to it's upbringing too. It's upbringing, and fortunately, I didn't catch it and learn to address it at an early age. But we're here now.
At least you're here
We're
Yeah.
here now.
in your own time.
Yeah.
Speaking of time, it's time for the law.
Well, it's that time.
So my law, I'm a chew with your mouth closed person.
That's good.
Sorry.
That's good.
It drives me crazy.
When Tony's like chomping at their
But you know the
food,
thing is, I love ASMR food. Like, I love a good mukbang,
that's
but I can't do it like in
But you don't want
person.
everybody to be doing that. Yeah.
interesting. I always wondered like what drives a person to like sit and watch it. Like what is it?
I like the sound. You ever hear the gnocchi mushroom crunch?
Oh.
That's very
It's the-
specific.
Yeah.
What the-
Dude, I look for it. I look for it.
You don't feel the
The
brain
sound
tingle?
it's like the brain itch.
Okay, I kind of get that part, the
Yeah.
brain tingle, but
Yeah.
like for me, if I needed a brain tingle, I do like waves, like
Oh, yeah.
binaural, like
Yeah.
like that.
That's
Very
very
cool.
But the ASMR, because I guess there's a visual with it. It's like you're just like chomping on your like food, and I'm just like,
All the sauce just gathering on the lips. Like.
But there's
Yeah.
different types.
I've seen the other side. I've seen the other side. Okay,
Types.
and
I love noodles.
Okay. I have gotten into something so niche. Like, I love the mini cooking.
I love
yeah.
those.
I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah, those are cute.
They're like legit little stories.
Yeah.
And it's ASMR. Like, I cannot stop watching it.
Yeah.
It's so cute. And I want my own set.
I mean, maybe there has to be something attached to where you're like engaged. You can really latch onto it.
Mm.
Like I guess watching somebody eat sloppily.
and like a disgusting amount.
It grosses me
You're like,
out.
how could you eat all that bulldog? Like, it's so
Yeah.
spicy.
Jeez, for sure.
But keep going.
And they're like so.
Yeah.
That is so red. Oh, yeah, I love it.
But you know what? No judgment.
Yeah.
That's my rule, though. I don't like mouth chewing open unless you're a mukbanger.
Yeah.
I guess.
Mm.
that you voluntarily chose.
That I chose to watch.
Yeah.
And it's specifically enoki mushrooms, noodles, salmon.
Mm-hmm.
And then specifically, like when the noodle is wrapped in rice paper. I love that shit, dude. That's crazy.
Wow. Is it the crisp? Is it the bite?
It's just, there's like a softness to it. And I know how rice paper feels, like when you bite it, like a spring roll rice paper.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Oh,
I know
right
that
now.
feels nice. Got with texture.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
To each their own.
It's a billion views industry for a reason.
I do not knock it in a way that, yes.
But it's not yours.
It's just, yeah.
Not for you.
That's fine.
I could probably say there are other ASMR stuff that I can watch longer. But, yeah.
Okay, your laws.
If I'm driving, I am choosing the music.
Oh, that's a hot take. That's a hot take.
I'm very particular about
What about like a
music.
road trip? Like if there's multiple people in the car.
Road trip, okay. How long? If it's 4 hours, yes, we can switch off.
Oof.
But if I'm driving the whole time, like when I say it needs to
it's your
change,
turn.
it needs to change.
Yeah.
If it's like 2 hours, it's me. If I'm driving.
Yeah.
Um,
What is it about it? Like, do you have like a driving playlist that you play? Is that why?
I love listening to my favorite songs while driving.
Same.
Okay.
I feel that.
It's like healing for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Also to stay awake sometimes.
Yeah. And it's weird because like if my passenger is like, oh, can I play this song? I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, but in my head I'm like, oh.
You're killing the vibe right now. I have a whole cue set up.
Like,
God.
I have a cue set up. Yeah, I'm choosing this exact
Very
song.
specifically curated.
Yes.
Transition, like this after the other.
And maybe it's that DJ producer
Ooh.
part of me that I really, really want to like nurture.
Yeah.
And I want whoever's in the car to like feel and hear what I'm hearing
Yes.
and
yes.
feeling. Maybe that's what it is. But, you know, if I'm in the passenger seat, fine. I respect it because I know when I'm driving, I'm playing the music. So
Yeah.
that's my law.
It doesn't pertain to kids, though. I'll tell you that.
Ooh.
So
That just
You
changes
gotta
game.
learn.
I
gotta
know.
learn. now.
I've seen it with my own eyes. That's why I
Sometimes you
feel
gotta hear the same Frozen song how many times?
my gosh.
over and
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
Well, kids change you, right?
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, my law. If it's anything but a steak, I'm eating that thing with a spoon and fork.
Yeah.
Like, even if I could, like, if we're going to a steakhouse, I can cut the steak with a spoon. But they don't provide a spoon.
They never do. You know, it drives me crazy. You know original Thai barbecue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't give you a spoon automatically.
You gotta
They just-
ask.
You gotta ask for the fucking spoon.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I just take it from like the serving. I'm like, this is my spoon now.
Oh, yeah.
Take another one.
I've done that.
I never do that all the time.
But that thing is big. But you know what? It's like...
I really need to like collect my shrimp fried rice.
Yeah.
Like, or crab
That's
fried
the
rice.
brain.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it
So
goes to that. I think that's where the habit comes from, because I think we're all taught. Every last grade
Mm-hmm.
on your plate.
Mm-hmm.
You can't leave anything
No,
behind.
that's rude.
So what better tool than a spoon? And you gotta like use little surgical
Yeah.
maneuvers to
Yeah.
get that little
But
piece
it's so
on there.
efficient. I don't know why like people don't do it more often.
Dude,
Like it's
man.
that's how you collect.
Yeah.
Like oh my gosh, like I don't like for people who grew up mainly like with chopsticks in their cuisine, right? It's like you ever just pick up rice with chopsticks? Because that as long if it's not sticky, it's not.
It's tough.
It's so hard. You're eating like 2 grains at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's not gonna do anything.
Nothing.
I also get cramps using chopsticks for a long time.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you guys?
Yes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hurts.
But it's interesting. Like, I was just talking about this with my roommate. All of her coworkers were surprised when she used spoon and fork. Like, they were having, she was watching them having a hard time while she was eating with her spoon and fork. And then, like, they were, like, looking at her. She was like, guys, like, how efficient is this? And they're, like, amazed.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like, I had an ex who was just like, that's weird. And I was like, fuck you. My people eat like this, so bye.
No,
you know?
well, see, if you're already like turned off by a spoon and fork, wait till you see like how efficient eating with your hands.
Oh my god.
You
Just
get
like
the
that,
full flavor.
The little scoop and
Yum, yum, yum.
into like a little mound.
Yes.
One of the only places, like not only places, but one of the places that encourage that, and I will do it. No gloves. Boiling grab. Like, fuck the gloves.
Yeah.
Like, and I love, like, the rice is in a cup.
Yes. I just
That
down.
shit is on the
It's
table.
little fighter for sure.
Uh-huh.
I
And
like,
then
love it.
we get the little juice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Your cup is like hella dirty because you're just like eating with your hand, but also like drinking.
Yeah.
I love it.
And there's a hand washing station.
Yeah.
There's the lemon.
Yeah.
There's the lock.
Yes.
So get over it.
Get over it. You'll get
Taste
there.
everything.
Yeah. Just make sure to wash your hands before.
Yeah. Ooh.
You know, germs.
Yeah.
But I love that. Like Ethiopian food too is really big on that.
Yes,
I
I've seen
love
that, for
just
sure.
like with injera.
Yes.
Yum.
That's why, I mean, you know, it spans different cultures. Like,
Mhm.
you know, it's just, I just don't want to hear the hate with the spoon and fork thing. Like,
What's the hate?
you know, why
shouldn't be
why
any
do you
hate.
hate?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's weird. Like, you're weird.
You're weird.
Just a fork. What?
Yeah.
I'll watch you struggle
Just
eating your
a
rice
fork.
with a fork.
And that does it for episode 2. We hope you enjoyed it.
Don't forget to follow us on all of our socials linked below, and also leave a comment so that we can keep growing as a podcast.
And we'll see you on the next episode.